We're on. First, to get started, to get some little fan feedback out of the way, we got some people talking, and apparently the vote is in. The mustache looks epic.
Nice.
Yeah, it was, well, somebody commented on one of the videos, one of our videos for a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
And they said specifically that the mustache looks epic. Definitely much better than the blonde neck hair. The other guy's blonde neck hair.
Blonde neck hair.
Yeah, so he's talking about Thaddeus.
Oh, shit.
Thaddeus' blonde neck hair.
Wow.
Yeah, so the fans have spoken.
And he wasn't even on that week, right? That's how much of an impression he made.
Yeah. So yeah, that the mustache plays, so the mustache stays.
Good.
Nice.
Moving beyond that. Yeah. Welcome to the garage, folks. It's January 23rd, 2019. I'm here with Scott Zielinski.
Hi there.
And Walt Campos.
What's up?
All right. So I was thinking about some shit here, and I'm a little bit, on the fence about it, even if I want to go down this road, because we really got to thread the needle to get it done the right way. All right. But start off a little important things. Contextual context is important. So you guys saw the video that I sent you with the marketing part?
Yes.
Marketing thing?
Yeah.
Right. So this woman, I guess it's in England. She's in marketing, and there's video of her showing how they use different marketing techniques to trick people. And they're not even really all that fucking mesmerizing. They'll use images, like they showed pictures of basically like English Chex Mix, right? And they repackaged it by calling it Diamond Chex Mix, and they turned it at an angle so it was diamond, and people bought it up. Oh, Diamond Chex Mix. I mean, that's how dumb people are that actually works. Okay, but you're built to fall for shit like that.
That's like in Scrabble when you take the Z and you turn it into an N and you put it in a word.
Yeah. It's literally exactly the same thing. Yeah. So then they would do things like use the keywords. Use like happy, positive, uplifting descriptions of things. So even if it looked like a pig getting slaughtered, you would think, oh, how look at the progress there. Look how well we're doing it. And you would have a positive image of so you have a positive image and a positive keyword, and you think, oh, this is great, right? But the third thing that they rely on, and this is the important part, is willful ignorance.
Right.
They rely on you choosing to ignore all the things that you know about it that are bad, and to believe them anyway because you want to.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is I think a lot of people know that, and that's where the will for ignorance aspect comes. But it's like, yeah, I don't care. It's like I want to be down this road. You know
that it's bullshit, and you go with it anyway.
Right.
Yeah, because you feel like you need.
Well, we talked about this years ago, John. When we were talking about social proof.
Well, social proof, and Walt and I have done many, many shows on social proof, but it is specifically that. It is, if something has social proof, everybody says so.
Right. And
you're going to
just that's on TV and they put all this money into it. So even if I ignore all that, nobody's going to care because it's going to be popular anyway. Because I'm seeing it it's a national brand, which means I can't go wrong by choosing it.
Even if it sucks, everybody knows that you're using the brand. So you're in the club. So it works that way. So it gets into, I was actually going to start this a little bit reverse, but it gets into how we've talked in the past recently about how you're programmed all the time, how you're programmed from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, and probably even while you're still sleeping, you're programmed all the time. You're constantly programmed, and you have to kind of step outside of that program. But the willful ignorance part, you choose not to step outside the programming. Right. So now she was doing this video. It's important in a sense too, because like my classes, I'm taking these things, and context is something that is important when you're doing therapy. When you are there, so talk about like it's a family therapy program that I'm taking, and they talk about context. Like a certain behavior would be completely normal in one society or one situation. Okay. That same behavior in another society or in another situation is just not completely right. You know, you walk into a restaurant, your daughter goes to the bathroom. There's a guy in there and he's, and he jumps into the girl's bathroom when your daughter's in there, and you go in there, beat his ass.
Right.
Right. Now, 30 years ago, that was expected. Now you're probably going to jail for beating his ass, even though you're right.
Yeah, worth it.
Right. Now, that same situation, though, you go into the ladies' room and just start beating somebody's ass. Only you don't have a daughter, and there's no reason for you to be there. It's the same behavior. It's just, context matters. you know,
right?
And we did a show specifically, A World Out of Context, and now, again, the therapy thing. We have you can zoom out, if you will. You can stretch things out, like where a family is a unit, and then the community is a unit, and then the town is a unit, and the city is a unit, and then the state is a unit, like that. You could zoom out to that and look at how they each function and see what is dysfunctional in them, and go from there. That's a systemic therapy, basically. But the other way, the only unit you could break it down to is an individual person. So if you are doing things if you really want to, boost up a business, for instance, you boost up the individuals, you get the individuals to working at their optimum, and the business is going to succeed. The whole system's going to work because the individual is working properly. Right? Okay, so you look at the overall social problems that we have, the cures that we're looking for them, stuff like that, right? And everything is focused on the system, how the system functions, and what's wrong with the system. And very little of it is focused on the individual and how the individual, if they're all doing the right thing, how the system will improve just from the individual doing the right thing. But at the same time, they're using the system. They're taking the actions of the system completely out of context so that the actions don't make sense. How could you do this? Because you removed it from the parts where it does make sense. But in this realm, of course it happens that way. You see what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think you completely freaking lost me, bro. I'm sorry.
Walt, were you following me? If I confused Scotty, I probably confused anybody that would be listening.
Maybe say it again with less words.
Okay, let's put it this way. So, why was that video made? Why the marketing video was made? Because this woman is a animal rights activist, and she was trying to show the conditions that that the animals are actually raised in when they're slaughtered to be put on in the supermarket, right?
Right.
And it's inhumane conditions. You have like hundreds of animals packed into these little pens where they grow up and grow big and fat, and they're just sitting there feeding, getting fat, not moving, feeding, getting fat, so they can come up and kill them later on, right? And her point is, and if you saw the video, it's horrible, right? So her point was that they skew everything to make it look, it's organic, farm fresh.
Right.
Farm fresh means that it's in a farm. It's like a processing farm. It's a giant farm.
They know that when you hear the word farm, it evokes just like this field of corn or something, and there's a guy with a piece of wheat in his mouth, and he's sitting on his tractor.
Right, but they're not. They're all giant warehouses. They're all packed into a giant warehouse.
Right, exactly.
Right. So all this stuff is horrible, and her whole point is this is the terrible things we do to animals so people can eat them, so stop eating meat. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But now now we talk about context. Okay. Zoom out. Look out at the system, that the reason why these animals are there. The reason why these animals are farmed that particular way. Well, until animals were farmed this way, people were starving to death all over the world.
Right.
Right? So I am a humanitarian. I love animals. You guys love animals. We're all animal people here. I like dogs more than I like people. I'd rather keep the animal and get rid of the person most of the time. However, if it wasn't, if it wasn't for the need to eat these animals, most of those animals would never exist in the first place. They wouldn't be there. But say, okay, well, that's okay, fine. But then the people didn't need to be there. Okay. You might not have been there, but then, so you want to get rid of all these animals that are farmed this particular way. Pick the 3/4 of the planet of the human population that you want to have want to starve to death in the next 2 months.
Right. So the more I go through life, the more I think there's like Thanos had something right.
But so are you a humanitarian because you don't want animals to be farmed in a way that's inhumane? Or are you a humanitarian because you want and you want to get rid of how they farm these animals in mass amounts like that? Or are you a humanitarian, because you want to feed the 3/4 of the planet that they're able to eat now because you farm animals that way?
I see what you're saying with that, and I'm not saying that like I have that much of an issue with it, but I will say one thing though is that like it's not as black and white as that. Because part of it is that a lot of modern societies demand like being able to just walk into any store at any time and being able to, these supermarkets and all that. And so a lot of it has to do with, well, okay, the alternative is to, let's say, have animals that are free ranging and free roaming and all that. But then it makes the cost very high to get that to your table. And so you're right. It's yeah, it's a tough thing to think about, but that's where
context matters. Right. Because now she purposely was only presenting to you one particular frame of what she wanted you to see. Mm-hmm. She wanted you to see how these animals are actually treated, how they're actually, kept in pens in horrible conditions, so that you would feel that emotional tug to the animals. Of course, if you're a human being, of course you're going to feel that. But you purposely, once you add that other element and you bring the entire picture into light, well, now all of a sudden it's not the same message that she's trying to give you. It's a different picture completely. Now you have to weigh, okay, that's not so great. Right. But that's an animal that they raised only for that reason. And those are fucking kids. They get to eat now.
Right. And not
now
sawdust.
Right. Not rotten meat that fucking, that they're getting maggots in their stomach and
right.
You know what I mean?
Because you look at North Korea and it's exactly that. They've got cookbooks and it talks about augmenting the food that they make literally with sawdust so that you feel fuller and they don't feel as hungry because they don't have any freaking food because they can't farm the way that we farm.
Yeah. So for all the horrors of all the context matters. And nowadays, when we're looking for the problems to things, this is where the one answer thing. Now functionalism is the idea that everything that society is at the moment, everything that is in the society at the moment emerged that way due to millions of interactions all over the place.
Right.
Okay. Now, in Celtic mythology, we call that the Celtic weave. Basically like a weaved blanket, like a knitted blanket. Like our lives are all interchangeably woven. They're woven together. Right. So if you're all locked together and fucking like now you pull one part of that, and the entire thing then rips apart. We want to now fix society by pulling on that string and ripping everything apart, ripping the whole system apart, without looking at the fact that, say, in 1850, when most of the world didn't have toilet bowls, and there was heating actual pan, putting it on your bed to keep you warm at night so you didn't freeze to death. That they were smart enough to know how to treat people when everyone was a savage, and if you weren't a savage, you were going to get killed by a savage. But today, you treat people right, so these people are all fucking you motherfucker, 1865.
Well, that's one of the things I've noticed, that a lot of these like causes like are incredibly one-dimensional. It's and they're uncompromising, and they don't look at anything other what they want, not what the reality is if that's changed. Because look at what PETA's become. Like PETA would have it that there weren't any animals anywhere and that we'd be a vegetarian society. And they would rather go into your house and kill your dog than have you own the dog.
Which is insane, right? That's like fucking...
Like, it's mind-blowing.
Right. But again...
They don't look at the ramifications of, like, not having farm animals.
And which brings us into something else. And this is pretty crazy because they operate like cults. They claim to... And they a lot of times are the biggest people about being anti-religion because they are religion. These people that do this, they use the willful ignorance. They are a religion. And they operate like a religion. So, like, these guys that actually came out and proved that, apparently, and this is where we have to thread the needle. This is where I want to be careful because I don't want to get political. Right. But it is about how people get stuck in viewpoints and how the disturbing part of the bullshit that's out there and how people, like, what's out in society. They have a documentary now, right? This is out. It's out there. It's been done. There's a documentary on these guys that proved that what they call the what the hell did they call that? It's gender studies and race studies and women's studies. You know, what the hell do they call them? Oh, that's going to annoy me because I have a specific term for it. Anyway, there's absolutely zero science behind any of it. It's all nonsense. It's all bullshit, and they've proven it. It's the grievance studies. That's what they call them, the grievance studies. All these disciplines that are the ones that are teaching people to actually be activists and go out there and rip things down without context. Mm-hmm. There's no science behind it. Essentially, what it is a professor. Say, for instance, you have a degree in some soft science, some sociology, right? And you have your magazine, and you publish whatever the hell it's called. I don't know. People shit. You publish People Shit magazine, and it's an actual academic journal because you have a doctor in this field, right? I write some bullshit paper where I could take a bunch of statistics and a bunch of quotes completely out of context to mean whatever the fuck I want them to mean, even though the source that I'm getting from did not mean that in any way. So then you read it and you're like, oh, wow, yeah, this is great. This is great because it falls in line with what you believe.
Right.
Right. And, you don't even check, then you go to peer review. And the peer review is that you send it to 8 professors in that field who all happen to agree with me already and agree with you already. And they fact check it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is real. This is great. It's peer reviewed. And now you're published in a academic journal.
Right.
Then Walt comes and Walt writes a bullshit paper.
Walt.
And he cites my paper in his bullshit paper. And his is peer reviewed the same way. Oh, yeah, this is great. And look, they have, now mine is cited. Mine is cited. I'm a cited source. Right. That makes it untouchable. It's a cited source. It's a source that was cited in another academic paper that was also peer reviewed. Now it's canon. Now it's science.
Right.
And imagine they do this over and over and over again over 40 years. And the people that they're hiring in the universities are learning this stuff in the university, and because they never go out into the real world, they get a job teaching in the university right after they leave the university from the same people that taught them this. Now, all of a sudden, you have all these departments that are all inbred, and there's nothing real behind it. They got caught up in their own bullshit, in their own nonsense, and they have their own language, and none of it is real.
Yeah.
And that is literally and then it seeps into the workforce and stuff like that, and now you have exactly what's happening right now in society.
Yeah, and you get into trouble because you know, what happens is you end up having to face somebody that says, oh, well, this is proof, this is consensus. There's a consensus out there, and none of it is empirical in any way.
None. Right? None.
And that's when from what I found, that once people use the word consensus when dealing with science, you know, then I know that there's something wrong. So I know that there's something that needs to be looked into, because if it's not empirical, if they use the word consensus, there is a problem. There is a huge
It's either
problem.
that or it's anecdotal evidence. They're full of anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
You know, it's not real. I experienced this, so that makes it true.
Yeah.
Even though you might be the one person that ever experienced it.
I don't think I ever thought about that before. That's a really good point, that you wouldn't say that it was consensus if you had something real to back it up. They're saying yada, 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 and the consensus agrees that this is the case, but that doesn't mean it's real.
Right. You would just use the fact.
Yeah.
You would just use the fact. Yeah. Consensus is not empirical. The very definition of consensus is that it is not empirical.
Right.
If it was empirical, they'd say empirical.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah. So, and then the guys that did this, right? They didn't coin the phrase, but they're using it. You call it idea. They call it idea laundering. Now, we did an episode where we talked about money laundering and how you slip, you know, fake money, you know, like dirty money in with clean money into a real bank account and then put it into real transactions. They idea laundered. They really literally did. They put bullshit science mixed in with real science, so you can't tell which is real, which is bullshit. And then they just kept recycling it until now all of a sudden you can't tell. You know, people don't know what's real, what's not.
Right. It gets cited, broken apart, put into other things, and then somebody who's actually coming into it just sees this trail and says, "Oh, this is a legit thing because of it's in these 5 different things." So I don't even have to fact check it myself. The community's already done that for me.
This paper's been cited 20 times. It's got to be, look, and because it's been cited 20 times by 20 peer-reviewed articles, then it must be real. Irreproachable. You can't take it away. It's not, you know, you can't question it.
And they don't teach that kind of critical thinking in the schools anymore. They don't teach that kind of, you know, in-depth. You know, there's so much about school that is just learn these hard things, like, you know, these hard sciences or mathematics, because we can test on those and then give real results as to what's going on, but not sort of the stuff on like, well, how do I find information?
Right. Well, why? Because if I can frame the context, right? If this is actually operating like a religion and not like a science, not like, you know what I mean? And there's no empirical evidence. There's only anecdotal and consensus evidence, which is what? That's faith.
Right.
I believe it because I have faith.
Right.
You know,
I have faith
because I have an emotional stake in the outcome.
and they are the ones that I have my position of power because I'm the person that's well read in all this stuff. It does not benefit me. Oh, that was weird.
What happened?
I just fucking completely lost my breath.
Oh, I've had that happen before. Wow.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah.
So
I started twitching.
Yeah, like if you like just pass out in front of us, what should we do?
Try not to laugh too much. You know, if I don't make the next show, something happened.
No, I mean, like if you just keel over, like
carry on.
How do we get a hold of your wife or whatever? You gotta email me her number.
I don't know. She might hear me hit the floor, but you know,
she'll just be like, whatever.
Yeah. Like, oh, did you just see John die? Oh, fuck. It's crazy.
Oh, we caught it on the live stream. Sweet, upload that.
Yeah, right. But except that I have all the accounts. Every time I send you guys the accounts, I don't, you know.
That's true.
Yeah, I think I've sent them to you like 3 times. So I got to send them again just in case I die. The passwords and stuff. So that in case I die, you can upload shit.
Never send it to me, bro.
Just don't send it now.
Yeah.
Over the air.
Anyway, right. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, but so if this is a religion though, and you are the person that it's all based on faith with no evidence, and you are the person who is the authority, who knows it all like the back of your hand. You're the priest. You're the pope.
And so I'm wondering, like, isn't pretty much anything sort of a religion, right? Because I hear about all these things, like, buy-in. You got to have buy-in to get whatever your thing is, and like, they could be just microcosms, but even if it's just like a small, where you have a group of 10 people that want to do one thing, haven't they kind of sort of established their religion to further whatever that goal is, in a sense? Because everybody has to believe in it and have faith that that's the thing that we want to do.
Yeah, and I mean, even science to extent is the same thing, because how much do they believe one particular thing forever until it's proven that's complete bullshit.
Right. I think there's life out there, extraterrestrial, and I'm going to spend my entire life with this group of other people that are like-minded to try and find life, even though I don't actually know if that's the case or not. I just believe that it is.
Yep.
Totally.
Yep. Yep.
And then you get into the whole thing of, like, you have to define what a life is, right? Because if a life is like microorganisms, they already found that. They already found that in other planets, right?
Shit like that.
No,
Yeah.
they've only found evidence that it could be. I don't think they've actually found it on another planet yet.
They haven't found microbes, or
No.
I thought they did.
That would have been big news. They found water. I remember when the first time, like, they found evidence and then actual water on both the moon and Mars, and that made some headlines because they didn't even know if water was anywhere else. But I don't think they've actually found alien life yet.
Mm.
I mean, that'd be huge. That means that life would be in other places as of right now. This is the only known place in the entire universe that has life.
Mm.
But
and you would say that is a life, though, right? If you found
a like a single-celled organism, yeah, that's life.
And then that's life. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
At least by how we define it.
Have they been able to get any of those samples back, or they just the rovers analyzed shit from the rover itself?
Yeah, the rovers just analyzed, but I think they just sent something there to grab some shit and send it back.
Yeah, because like if you found water, right? How would you analyze the water to know if there was anything living in it?
I imagine what they do is they look for organic compounds, and they would know, like, if they found and probably what they would find on, say, like Mars, they would like find like fossil evidence, but that's still not actually finding life. And maybe that's what they found, like stuff where they think it could have been, this thing happens when there are living microorganisms. That's how this thing happens, but something else could cause it too. So there's nothing definitive.
Right. But it's consensus. It's anecdotal.
Fortunately, with these like science guys, it's like, no, we still haven't found life yet.
That's the thing. They keep going until they know for sure.
Right. They're finding evidence to say, yeah, we should keep looking because we do have evidence that this actually could be. And the more stuff we find, the more it makes it seem like it could be. Like, there's some moon on Jupiter, I think, that is thought to have more water underneath its shell than Earth. And because of the tidal forces from Jupiter, it causes enough friction where the water underneath is liquid. And liquid water there, which means it's above 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and therefore could host life. Anyway, way off topic. But
Yeah, but that happens sometimes. So I don't know how to get it back to where we were, but I don't know if I want to.
Well, we were talking about consensus, and it was and how it's almost like a religion. And then I made the note, it seems like there's a lot of things, even in your daily life, you have to create your own little religion about whatever it is when you want to accomplish something.
Which makes sense because, like every successful society had some kind of a religion that formed and evolved with that society over time.
Right.
Like they go hand in hand.
I mean, a government is the same thing. You've got a document that gives, what do you call it? Basically like its Bible, sets down the rules of how you should be, but that's just a piece of paper. And everybody has to buy into that constitution to make it work.
Yep, right. If anybody says, nah, that's bullshit, fuck you. If enough people say that, you're done.
Right.
You have to buy into it.
You have civil war because then the other people that are still bought in are saying, no, you cannot leave this cult of the United States of America.
And then be glad your side is the side with the guns.
Right.
True. True.
And they say, the victor writes history.
Exactly.
Unless you want to completely rewrite history, unless you don't believe in facts.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah, I was just reading the 1984 quote again about how when you rewrite history and remove everyone else who knows the difference, then history is whatever you say it is.
Right. And you got to make sure that people aren't taught to look into it. Because that's one of the reasons why we take the facts and the histories that are in the books as being actual fact, because they get re-evaluated over the years.
Right. When the class of people that are supposed to be responsible for doing that particular thing, both in the realm where they teach the young children and in the realm where they inform the adults, in both realms, when they're just making shit up as they go along. And that's literally what's happening. I mean, they have evidence of this now. They know. Look at what happened the other day. Now, again, not to get political, but these Covington high school kids. There was a fucking 2-minute clip of a 2-hour video that somebody fucking played. A 65-year-old guy went on TV and lied about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the news were blasting it all over the place.
Yeah.
Then when they played the full 2-hour video and it came out that these were kids they were standing there. They got attacked by a group. And then the 64-year-old man went up to them and started yelling at them.
Yeah.
Then yelling something like, white people go back to Europe or something.
I don't know if he said it this time, but this particular guy has a history of doing things like this. He's done it over and over again. So he may have done that at a different protest that he
did
tried
something
to
later that night too.
So yeah, this guy has a history of it, but somebody did say that, but I don't know if it was this particular one. But then the media, instead of saying, hey, you know what, we got this wrong, they started playing the clips of some kid saying, if it's not rape, if they like it. Turns out that kid didn't go to the high school. They started playing, throwing around pictures of the kids at a basketball game dressed in blackface, right? Only it was years ago, it had nothing to do with these particular kids, and it was like a themed basketball thing. It was something that they do all the time. It wasn't like a race, like it's just something that's like a known thing in some basketball loop. I don't know.
Hashtag no context. You're talking about
right, exactly. All taken out of context. All more things taken out of context.
You take the thing that is acceptable here and then shove it somewhere where it's not acceptable, and then that sells media.
Right. And they are completely complicit in it because, one, it sells, but, because they can control what is going on out there because they're controlling the context of the conversation.
Yeah. I remember during, what was that hurricane in Louisiana? I don't remember what it was called. Katrina. And they showed one picture of, a group of black people, and they were grabbing supplies, and they were saying like, oh, here's a group of looters. But when it was white people doing the same thing, it was like people like grabbing stuff to try and survive.
Yeah, but that's a perfect example of framing it and putting things in whatever context. Now, was it true or wasn't it? That's another thing that's important. Now, were the white people looting and the black people were just grabbing supplies to survive?
Right, and you don't actually know because that becomes down to intent.
Right, it comes right, and there's no way for you to know.
No,
it's only what they present to you.
Right. People make shit up all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock did this great thing years ago where he took to prove a point he was talking about how he makes his movies and how the audience actually knows the story before he even tells it. So he took different footage that he took of completely a different time and place where he took footage from one thing, took footage from another, and he edited them together. And he first showed like a really attractive looking woman and then like a little kid smiling. And then the audience got this impression of, okay, that must be his mother, and he's smiling at his mother, or, you know, it was like something really nice and sweet and the whole thing. And then he took that same attractive woman and then he followed it with an old man looking and smiling. And then the audience got this impression of, that's a dirty old man.
Mm-hmm.
He's stalking the woman. And they're from two completely different pieces of footage.
Right. They were just next to each other.
Wow. They just happened to be, and it's the way he edited them together. It was so brilliant. And he just proved the point that people already are putting this stuff in their own heads just by seeing two completely different things put together out of context. So, you know, it's on YouTube somewhere. You know, if you get a chance to see it, I mean, it's really brilliantly done.
You fill in the blanks with what you want to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking nuts. Anyway, you know, here's another thing. Talk about context and where things are right in one society and not in another. In New York, there was a Chinese immigrant who came here in 1996, and he was just arrested for serving hot dogs to people. He was using real dog meat. He was selling hot dogs to people.
Truth in advertising, man. He didn't want to have any problems. He's new in the country. I guess so.
Yeah, they said he's been selling hot dogs for 18 years. He must have sold over 1 million hot dogs.
So he's doing something right.
Scotty, he's like your son. He's being very literal.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I make a general rule. I just don't eat hot dogs at the carts anymore.
Ones, man. Oh. Well, I guess maybe I like dog meat then.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe you're a fan. Horrible. I don't know if I could do that. Well, I know that I couldn't do it, but now if you didn't know it and then they told you what it was and it turned out you liked it, would you keep doing it?
Yeah. Don't they do that in South Korea or North Korea? I don't remember. One of those.
Well, North Korea, you're lucky you have meat there. I doubt there's a dog in North Korea.
They're all dead.
You know.
We're all eating.
I think it was China that maybe it was Korea, but they would have like a dog meat festival. It was just a festival where you went out and just ate dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems again, in one culture it's fucking completely normal.
And the other it's not. And you're like,
yeah.
Well, you know, pigs are smarter than dogs. Why do we eat pigs and not the dogs?
Are they smarter than dogs?
That's what I heard. That could have been one of those things that's just been said so much. I believe it to be true, even though it may not be.
Yeah. They're trying to. They're trying to keep you from eating bacon, is what it is. Yeah, fucking
pork chops taste good.
Although, like, it's a big pet now. Like, it's mini pigs are a big pet to the point where, like, they're starting to overwhelm pet shelters with people returning mini pigs.
Same stuff was happening with chickens.
Fucking dude, like I'm from New York. People don't really own chickens in New York. You know, it's not. I mean, maybe in like Dominican neighborhoods, maybe, but like down here, it's fucked up. Like there's a rooster like across the street, 6 o'clock in the morning every morning. He's fucking, you know, and it doesn't matter where you go; they're everywhere, man. You go to fucking 7-Eleven, there's a rooster living outside the place.
And they're coming in from Key West.
Well, it's also people raising pet chickens and letting them go. And now there's just wild chickens everywhere.
Right. I read a thing like a big thing on like this backyard farming, and people want chickens because they get the eggs, but chickens live something like 6 years, but they only lay eggs for like 2 or 3 years. And then you just got like a chicken hanging around.
Yeah.
And they don't want to slaughter them.
They shit everywhere. Disgusting. And then they get wild. You know, you don't want to get like wild chickens. A rooster will fucking attack you, man.
Mm-hmm. Most fowl do, like geese,
man. There's geese on my campus, and they're a fucking pain in my ass. The ducks, I don't mind. I like the ducks, but the geese, they're aggressive. They'll have like 8 kids, and they'll fucking be all over the campus. If you go within 5 feet of them, they're gonna fucking attack you. Fucking sick. Yeah, but I like the ducks. The ducks are all right. Did you see the video of that chick with the getting her asshole tattooed?
Yeah, I can't believe I saw that the other day. Because somebody posted something about like, hey, you could snap a shot of your asshole and send it around with like some funny little title, and nobody would know that it was your asshole. And so somebody put on there, oh, you need to look at this link. And it was just a link with nothing but pictures of people getting their asshole tattooed, and that one that you shared was in there.
See, you know where he's wrong. You know where he's wrong.
Where?
At the point that you decided to get your asshole tattooed, somebody's going to recognize your asshole. I know that ass. At the point you're going to get a target tattooed on your asshole, somebody definitely recognizes that ass. And you've probably got AIDS.
The salad tosser.
I mean,
how do you keep that clean, man? Like, I know when people get tattoos, like, you can get infected.
That's because somebody's always down there. You don't put a target on your asshole unless somebody's always down there. And there's probably a lot of people always down there. Yeah. I mean, enough people that you need to give them a target.
Right. Because you're basically saying, not in this hole, this hole.
Right. Exactly. I'm tired of dudes coming in my pussy.
Can't get pregnant.
Yeah, exactly. There's no grass in the field. Play in the mud.
Jesus. Are you fucking kidding me, dude?
It's horrible, right?
Did you just pick that up?
No. That's old. That's old. That's old. Yeah, old people that are not right in the head is what that's for. That's a pedophile joke, I think. Horrible.
Watch out, John. Somebody's gonna edit that out of context.
Well, it doesn't matter. No, that's one thing with the whole double down. No, put it in context. Go ahead. It's gonna sound horrible anyway, no matter what I do.
Yeah, but they're gonna say that that's what you believe, and so therefore, by extension, you're a pedophile.
But it doesn't matter because they could already believe that anyway. Look at me.
That's true. With that mustache, dude.
Right.
The porn stash.
Porn stash. Porn stash.
Yeah.
Porn stash.
Well, I'm sorry. Hey, look, we're getting comments on it and everything else. All I know is that I won an award at work the other day.
For the mustache?
Yeah, man. Ever since the mustache came. It's got magic powers.
What's the award for?
I was the employee of the month in September.
Nice.
But they didn't announce it until they didn't announce it until a week ago.
Wow. Well, better late than never.
So right. It was last September. It's not this coming September.
Right. Well, you never know. All I know is that it was waiting for the right moment. That right moment came when.
Hey, January for me, I was the employee of the month to get fired.
Well, that's one way to go. I went one way, you went the other.
I'm self-employed, so
we're playing the middles here. We're trying to keep all of our bases covered.
I guess I can give myself the award. I don't know.
Could be worse, guy. Though you could have. There are worse jobs, man. There's a flight attendant in Thailand who said a fat passenger forced her to wipe his ass.
How does that even happen? You can't force me to do that. How can a passenger force you to do anything?
Well, I don't know. Like Thailand. Well, Thailand. If it's some fucking crazy shit goes on in Thailand, from what I understand, I've never been there, but I used to know a guy that lived there and used to make his own ecstasy.
Huh? What's the
recipe? So, huh?
What's the recipe?
Yeah. Well, you need all kinds of shit that you can't get here, from what I understand.
I was doing it in Thailand.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, crazy shit goes on there, like crazy shit. So fucking,
it's like
why not?
Like that song, "One Night in Bangkok."
Yeah, they got good food though.
That's what that's about.
Yeah.
Besides, play like people complain about a lot of shit here that other places. They're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like I don't know what country it was, but it was in Asia. If you fail to meet your quotas, they make you crawl through the fucking streets. They make you crawl in the fucking street, in the gutter, in your fucking work clothes. If you fail to make your quotas in front of everybody to shame you. You shamed you. You didn't make your quotas. Fucking get in the street on your hands and knees and fucking crawl down the block, you maggot. And that's what they do. The bosses do that. It's allowed.
Sounds like a Japanese thing.
It probably is.
For 1,000 wink.
It, but you could be in trouble though. You should not say that it could be Japanese.
Oh, really? Oh, you can't do that anymore? I
don't know what you can do anymore.
In Japan, there is a statistic. I don't know if it's still true, but it was for a long time that they had a real high rate of suicide because the men did because there was so much pressure from work.
Right.
Well, so they would just because they would disgrace the company or whatever it was, and they would throw themselves in front of a train or something.
They also had.
Because literally, I just read an article that said for the first time in 40 years, the suicide rate in Japan has dropped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's crazy. So it's funny how that works out. They also had the highest heart attack rate.
Really?
For a long time too. Yeah, it was higher than the U.S.
Longest living people.
In Okinawa, they're virtually cancer free. So doesn't mean they can't get a heart attack though.
Right.
Because
it's true.
If you don't get cancer, I guess the only way to die is to have the heart attack. So
unless you kill yourself.
Yeah, unless you kill yourself because you disgrace the company.
Right.
I think I'd rather have a heart attack than get ball cancer or something. So.
Oh, man.
I know a dude who got bowl cancer. He beat it though.
Did he? Good.
Yeah. Thank God. Yeah. That's gotta be rough, man. No. That's not a fun thing.
I knew a kid who had it at 15. He had ball cancer, as you say. He had that at 15, and he beat it, but they had to remove. They had to remove.
Both?
No, I think they removed one. If I'm,
Yeah. That's good. You can fall.
They probably would do. If you were 60 or 70, they might take both just to be sure. Because that's with Jen. They took not just the cervix. I should be talking about personal stuff, but ovaries as well, just because there was no point in risking it. But if she was 20, they might leave the ovaries.
Right.
Again, context.
Yeah. Strange world we live in.
It all comes down to that, doesn't it?
I think two of the most underestimated concepts are intent and context.
Yeah, well, intent's a weird one because that's been a philosophical question for a long time. Is it that what you intended to do or what you actually did that is what matters?
Right.
You go into a bank and they use the bank. You go into a bank to rob the bank. Only somebody beat you there to rob the bank. So you fucking pull out your gun and you fucking stop the bank robber. Now you're a fucking hero,
right?
Even though you went in and robbed the bank,
right?
So are you a hero or are you a fucking scumbag too?
You're a hero because at the moment you did it was the right thing.
Yep. When the legend becomes bigger than the fact, print the legend.
Yeah. What if you killed someone, right? But that guy, who you killed, would have in the future, he would have bombed 100 people and killed 100 people in some mass attack.
That only works for Tom Cruise.
You'll have never known that because you're the guy that killed him. So you're only for killing a guy who would have
that only works for Tom Cruise. And you could only be bailed out if it happened to you. You could only be bailed out by Tom Cruise because he would be the only one who would know that it actually happened. So you would have to convert to Scientology.
What if there was a that murdered Hitler and that guy got the electric chair because he killed Hitler when Hitler was a teenager or something like that?
Right.
You just never know. Because you're what if there is some crazy energy out there and God is somehow speaking to certain people and they're I have to destroy this evil, and everybody else is dude, that was a kid.
Right.
Yeah. Like what happened fucking this weekend. I don't know. You know what I tend to think? I tend to think that if Hitler was killed when he was 7, there would have been some other schmuck who fucking came up and did the exact same thing.
And maybe would have been even more successful.
Yeah, you don't know. But I tend to think because like shit doesn't happen in a vacuum, and this is a lot of where the context conversation comes from, and where like where I've been talking about in school, because like we were specifically going over like linear causation and like circular causation, right? Whereas linear is A makes B happen, right? So it's easy. It's easy to point to, right? But then circular causation is like the chicken and the egg. What came first, the chicken and the egg? You don't know what the fucking came first. Okay, you know what the problem. You don't know where it originated. Everything is so interconnected, but that's why to not get political, ageism. Ageism is the problem. Why that it can never be right. You can never be right because there's too many factors that add into why a result emerges,
right,
based on all these different interactions between all these different people, right? But there is definitely a groundswell, if you will. There are movements where everybody thinks the same thing all at the same time, and it's because of whatever circumstances present themselves in that particular society at the time that it's happening, right? So whatever circumstances swelled up created Hitler,
right.
There are other guys out there. Hitler killed 31 people within a 2-week span to take power. He personally killed 31 people within a 2-week span to take power, right? To get in a position to be able to get elected, right? How do you know one of those 31 people wasn't going to do the exact same fucking thing? They probably were.
Right.
The science that they were using was like it was like an accepted science at the time by some fucking nutbags. So like, so that whole thing going back in time to kill somebody, you could go back in time and kill Hitler and get the gas chamber, the electric chair for doing it, all for nothing because some other scumbag came and fucking did the same thing and they were more effective. They killed more people.
Right. And that was the thing, like, because Hitler was not that great of a strategist, but he wanted to be one. And I'd read somewhere that they surmised part of the reasons why they didn't really try to assassinate Hitler because they figured somebody with more know-how would come in and win the war. Like, okay, we're fine with Hitler. We're gonna sacrifice tens of thousands of lives over a few years because the alternative is worse.
Yeah. He also like wasted a shit ton of money on like occult fucking powers. Like Indiana Jones comes from real shit, man. He was fucking looking for stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, he was looking for magical artifacts. He was trying to build a UFO or some shit like that. This is all real.
He had that soothsayer of his killed too, because like eventually that guy ended up being more popular than Hitler was at the time. So so his own, the guy that he used to predict all this stuff or whatever, and ends up he got killed in the forest or something, because he had it done because the guy was gaining too much popularity. So
that's why I think with the Time Machine, the book Time Machine, Wells, it's brilliant in that where you can't go back beyond. You can't change the event that made you create the time machine to go back to change, because you wouldn't have created a time machine if that event didn't happen.
Yeah, the paradox.
Right. So you can't go back to a certain point before a certain thing, right? It's the same reason why I don't really have regrets for anything that I may have fucked up before I met my wife, because I wouldn't have my exact children. If any other thing happened differently, that sperm wouldn't have shot into that egg to produce that kid the way that it did. And
if you'd have waited a day, maybe the next one in the chamber doesn't fertilize the egg.
Exactly. So, and I like my kids. My kids great.
Waited 5 minutes and it would have been a different outcome.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So I don't go back and worry about that because, my kids, for whatever they are to me, they're perfect. Right. Whatever fucking animals they're going to be when they're older, to me, they're perfect. So it is what it is. I wouldn't want a different one. So it really knocked all the regret of my life out.
Right. Yeah. There is no what if.
Right.
You can't what if anything. Well, what if this happened? Well, you don't know the other shit. Oh, what if you didn't get that red light? Well, you might have been hit by a truck.
Exactly.
You were late and lost your job, but you didn't get fucking smashed by a truck, and a couple months later you'll have a job and it won't matter anyway.
Right. But that's also why the whole thing with people who are anti-religion makes no sense because you don't understand the world outside of a religious context because you've never lived in one.
Right.
You know, so how you go back and destroy that when it's the reason why, or the way that you think, it's the reason for everything that you do, whether you want to believe that or not.
Right.
You were raised in the system, that you don't know anything but the system because everywhere around you is the system.
Yeah. People look at being like free thinkers or what do you have a sense of what do you call it, self-determination, and it's an illusion.
Yeah, that's why guys like Sam Harris think that nothing that with anybody is actually anybody's fault, because it's all just, it's nature versus nurture. You're born with a certain nature, you're born to act a certain way, and then the outside environment triggers you to have certain responses. But you didn't choose the way that you were born, so you didn't choose how you were naturally built, and you didn't choose in the outside environment that reacts on you. So you could say, okay, but I could choose how I react to it. But can I? There are different chemicals firing off in your brain all the time, depending on whatever stimulus you're responding to.
Right. Otherwise, everybody would react the same way.
Right.
It's like they put this big thing on, like, oh wow, this person is brilliant and yada yada yada, and it's like, well, they didn't do anything to be a genius. They didn't actually like do anything. They just are. And yet we celebrate that, and the person who's got a low IQ, we ridicule them and don't want to be around them and make fun of them, etc. And there's nothing that they can do about it. It's not like they chose that.
Yeah, they're just stuck. But now at the same time, that person, you have to basically carry them forever unless you push them into something that they can do where they could be the genius. Oh, this guy's a genius. He built a computer. Yeah, but that guy's a genius. He figured out how to make the guy who built the computer die because he stood in front of the guy who was trying to kill him.
What?
Okay, somebody who's dumb as rocks. You can't really get them to do much, right? Somebody who's dumb as rocks. They were born that way. They can't help it, right? You got to, if you want everything to go right, you got to push him towards something that he can be a genius at.
Right. Oh, that's what. Yeah, don't get me wrong. And that's what I say. Like, somebody's got to take out the trash and clean the toilets.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The world falls apart without that. Somebody has to do it.
And it's great that like this other person is a genius, but we look at it as if they've like they had these accomplishments and they like went out and did these. Like if I had wings and could fly, like, that's not an accomplishment for me to go out and fly around and do stuff. I just happen to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's like I always, whenever you have this conversation, I always think about Steve Jobs, who was celebrated. Steve Jobs was the biggest piece of shit you ever heard of in your fucking life. But he made gadgets that everybody loves and has, have helped out a lot in the world. But he was a piece of shit. Oh, yeah, he's the greatest guy in the world. He made all this. Okay, he made his daughter live on welfare because he fucking wouldn't, while he was rich, because he wouldn't acknowledge her existence. When he knew it was his kid. And
it's amazing what he get away with.
I know. You're right. You have something that people want, and you could do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. It's like the like this person, oh, I sing songs and a lot of people like the songs I sing, and then now that puts me up here in society, as opposed to the guy who's in there every day going and slaving away for 30 years so he can bring one medication that cures one type of cancer.
What's worse is that person who sang a couple songs that everybody likes, so they all put them up there. Now you want to hear their opinion on politics, and you want to hear their opinion on medicine, and you want to hear their policy on economics, and they don't know shit.
Nothing.
But they're an authority because everybody likes to hear from them.
Well, all right. So what do you propose we can do about it?
Kill everybody. Well, I say you get rid of the mass farms, and 3/4 of them are going to starve to death. So
maybe she's right.
Yeah. Maybe you are a humanitarian.
Shit. Yes.
Yep. Snapping those fingers. Yep.
Just kill the tofu trees.
It always see, you know what the problem was? I wasn't seeing the context that she was seeing the world in. I was taking her comments completely out of context.
Right. She was next level, man. You didn't see the big picture, bro.
That's so fucking funny. I don't know how the hell that happens.
That's because nothing is cut and dry. Nothing is straightforward. There's subtlety to everything. Everything's a prism, right?
Yeah.
And you could only, and the thing is people, we can only look at so many things at once. We really can't see the big picture.
Yeah, I mean, you're actually kind of designed that way. You can't. You're designed to only be able to see the things that you are specifically looking for.
It's a survival instinct.
Yeah, and that's what they're almost all aimed at is survival, and then your base animal. Like I explained this to my wife the other day that besides the fact that most people aren't very smart, like 70% of the world's population lives between 85 and 115 IQ, and that's average intelligence. You're between an adult at 85. You're not very smart.
Right. I don't know how stupid I am, but it's got to be in there somewhere.
and 115, you're slightly above average. Okay, so that's where most people live, is in there, right? When you are not on the lower your IQ, the more base animal you are, the more you are like a caveman and just acting on instinct and looking for your base needs than thinking existentially about the existence of life. You know what I mean?
Right.
So those people are going to be more apt. They're going to be more prone to act on things like attraction, where the only thing that matters to them is that they're attracted to their mate, and it doesn't matter if they have a brain in their head because they're only thinking about sex because it's the only thing they're not even thinking about. They're just feeling because they don't have the ability to think.
Wait, everybody's not like that?
Well, no, they're not.
Not all the time, at least.
Yeah, the rest of them are called females. But like, so she couldn't understand how people could get, because what I explained to her, and Walt knows this because, every single person out there, right? There is some person somewhere that they see this person and they will be a total pig for them. They will do whatever the fuck. Yeah, fuck my ass, beat me in the face of your shit cock, will do whatever they want. Everyone has someone out there that will just make them do whatever. Dudes do too. You might not have met them yet, you might not have encountered them, but they're out there. There's somebody that knows how to flip your triggers like you don't know what to do. It exists.
Yeah, mine's probably a dude.
I heard that about you. So like my wife couldn't understand because my wife likes smart people. It's just her thing. She likes people that read books. She, can have an intelligent conversation, but not everybody is like that. Most people aren't like that. Most people, it's the looks, it's the attraction that fucking gets them. So they'll stay with somebody even that are fighting all the time because they just want to have sex with them. They don't have that next level attraction. So somebody could easily sweep them off their feet.
Right.
She couldn't grasp how that's even possible.
And I was of the same boat because it was a while before I realized that the way that I looked at people and relationships and things that I liked, because I liked smart people and people that looked into stuff and would read and didn't just take whatever the pop thing was as that's the way they're supposed to look at the world. Because basically most of those types of folk, they think they've got, like we were talking about, self-determination. They're a product of like what everybody else is telling them how to be, and they be that so that they can be liked. And like most of the people that I hang out with just aren't like that. And I thought that's just how everybody was.
Well, it's funny.
The minority, because there's a whole bunch of other people I just didn't like. And I'm like, oh shit.
See, what is funny about that, because I'm the same way. I have a small group of friends. I have a very small group of friends. But my small group of friends are like, I'm very loyal to my friends. My small group is like, we've been together for a long time. Even Walt was my friend in high school. You know, we didn't talk for a long time because we lost touch after high school. But then, you know, ever since we've been just as close now as we were then.
Yeah.
You know, so it's, you know, so I have a very small group that we're very close to, and it's because I'm not into any of the shit that anybody else is into.
Oh, hell.
I don't care about any of the stuff they're into. I don't care if you like me. I don't give a shit.
Nope.
Now, my wife is all about people liking her and how she fits into groups. Now, that's partly because a woman. It's partly because she's just part of her nature. It's also why she's more successful than I am. And it is because she can fit into the groups and because everybody wants, you know, whereas I'm aggressive and like fucking disagreeable and, you know, fuck that guy. I'll tell them you're wrong. No, you're fucking wrong. Fuck that guy, you know. But there is a real need to be part of the group. It's also a survival thing.
Yeah.
And
nobody can look.
Right. Now, the more intelligent you are, the more likely you're going to be able to survive on your own without the need for the whole group. And at the same time, depending on how group structure is and how the hierarchy is, if you're that smart, you might be a threat to people. So you're going to have enemies within the groups. You might be better off on your own.
Right.
You know, with only the small group of people you know you can trust, and you do what you do together, because nobody else is going to get you anyway. So you can only be with people that understand you.
That's like one of the funny things, like the trope that like the smart guy wouldn't do well like out on the streets or if they were in a survival situation. But there's no evidence that says that. You would think the smart guy can ascertain more things, and actually be better at survival, even though he may not be like a bodybuilder athlete or whatever. But
well, again, because it's the idea of the smart guy out of context. What is the guy? How is the guy smart? What is he smart in? You're just taking one quality. What are the other qualities? Because I'm a smart guy, but I've been athletic my whole life.
When I look at that's true. He could have more than one, but like I should say, like the classic nerdy bookish.
The nerdy, right? That's all he is. Smart.
And the thing is, though, as I look at myself as being sort of that nerdy bookish guy, but because I have looked at so many different aspects of the world, because I choose to go out and seek information that normally people wouldn't, I think I might have a better shot than like the quarterback jock. Again,
out of context, you're a Marine.
How?
Quarterback jock has a certain regiment to him, and he has a certain structure of how he went about doing things. But that all goes. I mean, you put an athlete in a ball game, and things speed up for them. They get discombobulated pretty quick, and they fall apart pretty quickly. The athletes that are really good are the ones that are able to slow the game down, and they see things happening in slower than real time.
Right.
You know, they're faster than the game. So again, so that the quarterback athlete isn't, you know, now a Marine, you've been trained. You're out in the field. If you fuck up, people die.
Or you die.
Right. There's no fucking up.
Right.
You know, so like the smart guy who was the nerdy book nerd, but went through training with the Marines, with combat training, or the jock football player who is great within a system, but you rattle him out of the system and he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah. I mean, it just goes like nobody's an archetype. I mean, that's for books and TV, but nobody really is an archetype.
Well, yeah, because the archetype is the embodiment of that society's hero. The archetype is all the best qualities of that particular society.
Right, or the
archetype is. Huh?
Or the enemy, or the
right, or the others, the exact opposite, or the embodiment of all the evil things for that society. Yeah. Right.
That's true.
The meta hero, which is Jesus, is all the best qualities of people for all the tribes and societies. So he's the hero. He's the AMOG of AMOGs, like Tom Cruise. Just so you know, Al Scotty, since you don't know the lingo, or maybe you do, AMOG is the alpha male of the group.
I've heard of alphas. I don't know how to put as an AMOG, but yeah.
AMOG is the alpha male of the group, and Tom Cruise is the AMOG of AMOG.
And
He's
why?
the alpha male of the group of the alpha males of the group.
And why is that?
Because it's his world. We just live in it.
I thought it was Chuck Norris's world.
No, Chuck Norris just doesn't want to get fucked with. Well, I saw a great meme though. There was Liam Neeson, and he's like, "I will find you," and then it's on the other end. It's Chuck Norris. He's like, "And what?" And have a nice day.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Behind Chuck Norris's beard is another fist.
That's good. But
Hey, one more. I'm sorry. I've read a meme the other day that said, "Death once had a near Chuck Norris experience." It was one of my favorite.
that's great.
You know what about the snake?
No.
There was like a cobra or something that like bit Chuck Norris once, and like after like 5 excruciating suffering days, 5 days of excruciating pain, the snake died.
Oh, I love those. Anyway, yeah, but I don't get the whole and maybe I'm missing something. The whole Tom Cruise thing. Like, I don't understand. Why is he the alpha? About
Okay, there is and there is a way that when you walk into a room, okay, every time you walk into a room, it's called a frame, all right, like a picture frame, like what's going on in the picture, right? And a set are the people that are in there, right, that are working it, right? So there are guys that when they walk in, everybody stops, all the attention goes to them, right? That's the alpha male of the group, right? Everybody that gets their cues from that person, everybody wants to be next to that person. They all try, just like a pyramid in a hierarchy. They walk in and they're the top of the hierarchy, right?
They determine how everybody else acts, what's acceptable.
Exactly. They are the ones who are controlling the frame. They're the ones who are setting what is happening here today. Tom Cruise, no matter who he is amongst, no matter what the crowd is, he walks in and the room lights up, and he is the one that everybody gravitates toward. He's the one who's controlling the frame in the room.
But what
it's
if
always about Tom Cruise?
Like any actor, like I don't understand why specifically Tom Cruise.
Because there's a charm about the fucking guy. There's just he's got a fucking aura about him that fucking everybody. But supposedly he's like, huh?
Maybe 20 years ago.
No, even like 10 years ago.
He's
even
this was the star of the world. Believe it or not.
This was after the crazy Katie Holmes shit.
Yeah, and step back, and I think he specifically said, "I'm just going to focus on acting, and I'm not going to do this other BS."
He has a way to walk into the room, and he'll come up to you and start talking to you, and like you're the greatest person in the world. Like the guy who wrote the book The Game, Neil Strauss, right? He interviewed Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise specifically requested him to do the interview, and he's like, and they're like having a conversation, and he's like, and the guy's like, I'm not, what I do isn't as sexy as what you do. It's like, and Tom Cruise was like, wait a minute, what do you do? He's like, I'm a writer. He's like, hey, that's great, man. You're a writer. That's great. Be a writer, man. And like, he's all about that. That's great. Do what you do. Be the best at what you do, and people love him for it.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Essentially, he knows how to work the room.
It's funny because a lot of what you think would be how you would normally act to get to that point is probably the opposite. Like, you probably have those superstars that go in and they act like jerks and pricks. And I mean, look at Chevy Chase. He like tagged what his career could have been because he was such an arrogant ass. Yeah. And nobody wants to work with him. He's trying to come back and wants to mend his ways, and everybody's like, screw you, dude.
Well, even that, though, he tries to come back, and every time he wants to try to go back, he says something to fucking piss somebody off afterwards anyway.
Right. Well, it's not in the cards for him.
Right.
But if you were like Tom Cruise, based on what you're saying,
Now, this is based on what I'm told from people that are celebrities now that have done quite a bit of writing for Rolling Stone magazine, stuff like that, like real writers.
Social proof.
Social proof, exactly.
They've been cited.
Yep.
So we believe them.
Well, I read the guy's book, so I know he's a good writer because I read his book. Yeah. And it's a lot of science-based stuff, and it's true story stuff too, like pickup artist things, social dynamics.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah,
funny,
and
there's a science for everything, and there's literally a science to get laid.
yeah, there's a formula for that too.
Right, and nothing about any of these formulas, if you ever look at, no matter what it is you're trying to do, nothing guarantees anything, but it's giving you that extra.
They say that what was it, Walt? They're like it's like 80%. The NLP stuff. The NLP is 80%. NLP works like 80%.
You mean?
Yeah, yeah. NLP is effective like 80% of the time.
Yeah. It's in my life, it's panned out.
But you're hypnotizing people, and they don't realize it.
It's panned out quite a few times. So
yeah. But you're hypnotizing people, and they don't realize it. You're hypnotizing them in front of them when they don't realize that it's happening.
Like like our old friend, that I'm not going to mention his name right now, but
yeah.
He said to you that like somehow I was manipulative or something like that. I think that's what he was talking about.
Really?
Like, remember a while back he said it
because he says so many crazy things that I stopped paying attention to.
I know. But one thing he said is that somehow when we were growing up, I was very manipulative, and I was like kind of offended by it. But like at the same time, I think that's probably what he's talking about.
It might be. I mean,
I guess I convinced him to do a couple things, and I guess he thought of it as being manipulative. So,
remember when we were doing that though, right? I kind of stopped doing it because I thought I was being too manipulative. I thought it was like the Sociopaths Handbook, so I stopped studying it. Yeah, Scotty, it got to be like crazy, like freaking. We would go to Hooters, and I would do all these stupid little tricks, right? And the girls didn't know what to do with themselves. They just, and I was like an old man at the time. I was like 32 years old or something like that. These girls were like 19, 20, and you knew I was the old man in there, and they just didn't know what to do. And then they would get pissed off, right? Because like we were just practicing, right? They would get pissed off because they would find out that I did the same thing, like 3 or 4 other girls that they worked with. And, because they all fell for it. I didn't sleep with any of these women. I didn't, there wasn't anything like that.
Listen, John, I've been around for 45 years, and you're the only person that I know that I've met that is like was able to hook up with a stripper.
Yeah.
Vegas, baby.
Because that's hard.
Vegas. No,
well, I think it's true because I think there's a lot of like they see like freaking horny guys all night long who are constantly trying to get them to go home with them, and they gotta say no. So what the hell did this guy do that like this was like, I see these guys all day long, but I'm going home with. I did that on Scotty's bachelor party. That's right. That is what it was. Yeah.
And that was no, because there was another girl one night we went to the Rio, and this was maybe the hottest girl I ever seen. And I walked right up to her and just picked her up.
Nice.
Scotty was there. Scotty was with me that night. I just walked up to her, just started talking to her, and bang, that was it. She was definitely a stripper, but there's no way she wasn't a stripper.
Well, I mean, they take their clothes off. It's pretty,
No, because this wasn't in the strip club. This was outside the strip club.
Oh, I don't remember that then.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah, you were there at the Rio with because Jim was there too. I don't know what we were doing. Right? Huh?
It was 4th of July. If it was the bachelor party.
No, this was a different time. This was a different day.
Because we were on top of the Rio. Remember, we got special access because Jen's job.
Right. It was not that day. It was a different day. We just happened to go there. I don't know if we went to McSorley's or whatever the fuck we were doing, or McFadden's or whatever the fuck it is.
Never go down this. Like when you lived there, you just didn't go down to the strip.
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where like the Rio was good because it wasn't on the strip. It was off the strip, but they had a lot of good like bars in there.
That was the theme. It's the Rio. It's like Mardi Gras all day long, every day.
Yeah. It was pretty good. But yeah, but Vegas was pretty easy to pick up strippers though in Vegas.
Yeah, I guess because it's like there's a critical mass of strippers there.
Yeah, exactly. And what the thing about it is that these weren't the skanks they were dancing in Larry's.
Oh God.
These were like the high end girls. These were
they didn't have little holes in them and stuff.
Yeah, like the girl that I was dating out there, her best friend was in Whitesnake. Her best friend's boyfriend was in Whitesnake.
Oh my God, Whitesnake.
Well, this was 10 years ago, though. I mean, those guys at the time were probably still ancient, but fucking.
I think it's a little more than 10 years ago.
They're still around.
Yeah, a little longer than 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
It's pushing 15, bro. Can you believe that?
Nah. No, it's like 12 years.
Wait, to me, that's pushing 15.
I guess. Anyway, it's getting on late here. It's 11:55. I think we're gonna
talk about strippers. Can't be done.
Well, I mean, you can talk about strippers pretty much every time.
That's true. They factor into everything.
It's true. I mean, if you're talking about the Celtic weave, we're talking about context. You know, you can't separate your life from strippers because they're always present.
Because at the end of the day, we want to see naked women.
But so do women, though.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Like you talk about like acceptable, like how it is. Like if you've got women in a strip club, you don't even pay it any mind for where there's like topless dancers, or, you know, like where there's women that are stripping. But take a dude to where it's men stripping, and that's going to be very, very out of place. And you're like, well, that guy's definitely gay, even though you wouldn't say the same thing about the women.
Yep. Well, now we did a show once years ago where we talked about this, and we had a female co-host, and I threw out this truth that 1 out of every 4 men shows homosexual tendencies, but 3 out of every 4 women show homosexual tendencies. And our female co-host fucking flipped the fuck out. She was like not happy about that.
Huh.
But it does happen to be true. Now, the fucking funny thing is that I was about a week ago, I was listening to an evolutionary psychologist, right? And they were talking, because I like evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology. I like knowing where we came from and how we developed and why we haven't developed that in those particular ways.
That's why I love etymology and anthropology.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this guy was saying that now homosexuality has always existed, but from an evolutionary perspective, they don't know why. Because it's not, you know, there has to be some kind of advantage to that, right? Like something like not, you know, you're not, that particular person is not going to is not going to be able to compete on the scale to reproduce. He's like, if you think about alpha, beta, you know, like that, he's not going to be able to reproduce. So he is going to be more of doing things around to help the women. There has to be some kind of evolutionary reason why that continues to happen, because otherwise, you know, like nature is what selects. Right. And evolution is selecting for advantages and getting rid of things that don't work.
That's why Darwin called it natural selection. Evolution was not even in the origin of species. It was a natural selection.
Right. Exactly. But like 3 out of every 4 women having homosexual tendencies. If men are programmed to go out and hunt and to be individuals and to be in competition with each other to compete for the best women, right? But women are programmed to think about the relationships, to think about to keep the family together. Right. It takes a village to raise the children, because it does. Because it, you know, a human child takes, you know, if you talk about not in modern times, but a human child takes 13 years, 14 years to wean completely, where there are what the most times humanity would consider an adult.
Right.
Even 150 years ago.
Around that time, yeah.
Yeah, right. If you are 14 at 150 years ago, you're an adult.
Right.
You know, but that's 14 years that the woman is stuck trying to raise this kid, feed it, protect it, all this other stuff. She wanted all these women around so as much as possible. So if you have an emotional connection to these women that are around helping you raise your children, while their men are off doing whatever they're doing, while the one man in the village who's allowed to have sex with everybody is on with another girl, you know,
right? And sex for women is emotional, where for men it's completely physical.
Yep. Because you have to want to raise the child of that particular, you know, you have to have a connection with that entity, otherwise you're not going to go through it for women,
right?
You know, but now there is an evolutionary component to making men stick around with their mate to raise the children. That's why we take pride in those kids. You know, why there is a, you know, that connection that we do have, not the way the mother does. but we do have it because we have that thing where we want our seed to carry on in the world.
Right.
Because your whole purpose is to survive and reproduce. And as a man, if your seed, your line does not carry on, you failed as a man.
Right. You somehow didn't do your sole purpose.
Right.
As Steve Martin put it in The Jerk, you did not fulfill your special purpose.
That's exactly it. But that is your special purpose. That's everything you do is programmed around that.
Right.
You know, and that's every creature on the earth. And to not understand that, that's why this whole thing with the fake sciences that make up their own science and produce it as if it's real, they all mistake the fucking biological imperative to survive and reproduce is the same for every creature on the planet. That's the goal of life, to continue living, to continue life.
Right. Yeah, there's a species of it's funny how nature works, because you can't just say the alpha, because there's this species of like it's like an ape or a monkey, I'm not sure which one it is, where while the alphas are out there fighting for their mate, the more docile males are hanging about with the women, grooming them and doing stuff, and ultimately end up mating with them, because that evolutionarily is what is needed for that species of animal. The alphas come back and mate with all these already pregnant females that were impregnated by the dude, just like, nah, man, I'll just hang back here. I can like brush your hair. They're gonna go off and fight.
And now, for the male, right? That is the evolutionary jackpot, to be able to knock up as many women as you can and not have to hang around to raise the children.
Right, 'cause she has the baby, and Alpha thinks it's his shit.
Right. So that's mine, and I'm going to go over here. Right. Well, he's stuck now. He's stuck there for 18 years. I'm mobile. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I'm free to keep spreading my seed everywhere, and that way your seed is spread just like a plant would. Your seed is spread all over the fucking, and that's yours.
So maybe that's what Johnny Appleseed actually was.
Yeah. Maybe he was just fucking a sperm donor.
He wasn't planting apples. He was
planting apples, baby. Yep. He was planting babies.
Oh my God.
He was knocking bitches up all over the place.
Applesauce, bitch.
Walt, you know what that pot in his head was, right? Right? Johnny Appleseed. He's the one who walked around the pot in his head, right?
Oh my God, I don't remember.
He was peacocking. They're like, yo, what the fuck is the pot in your head for? You want to see my dick?
Right. I've got your attention now. Look at my dick.
Yep.
The other guy doesn't have your attention. You're looking at me. Oh, jeez.
Before she knew it, his dick was in her hand because he put it there without her looking. And if she didn't take it, then she's just that whore that's tucking this guy's dick. So she better have a baby. Anyway, but although that's another thing, throughout the history of the world, only the successful men had babies. To have a child, you were successful.
Right.
But that's where this whole concept of the about women's rights and how women didn't have rights, stuff like that. Okay, so women were sold off like property, right? But they were the commodity that everybody wanted. Whatever life they had, it was based on that commodity, which they still use today. And all the other men didn't get it. You didn't get it. You either went to a prostitute and got syphilis, right? Those are the women that nobody bought, and they had to prostitute themselves. So if nobody picked you, you had to make a living somehow. How was a woman going to make a living? She had to prostitute herself. They worked in factories and shit like that too. They would have worked as farmhands and stuff like that, and maidens and things. But still, you were a slave if you were. And this is the everyday person was a slave. The average man was a slave who wasn't even getting laid.
Yeah, we still are slaves.
Yeah, that's true. Well, there's more slaves now than any time in history.
It's funny.
There's still a slave trade going on in Africa right now.
Yeah, human trafficking from all over, and they and you see it because it's like, a group of people from Bangladesh is shipped over to this other country where they basically are slaves.
Yeah,
and it's like sanctioned by the government. They don't call it slavery.
Right, but that's what it is. It's so the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just how it is. Anyway, on that note, it's after midnight, so it's time to cut out. That fun, cheery note. Any last words, fellas?
Stay in school or don't.
We
There you
don't
go.
care.
Walt.
We don't care.
All right. Well, just the other thing I got to say is remember to try to keep everything in context. You know, it might sound like batshit crazy to you, but somewhere it makes sense. Anyway, check us out on YouTube and on SoundCloud, MedTMC The Garage. Check out our books, The Medicine Presents on Amazon. I don't think we're on Barnes and Noble anymore. I think they kicked us off.
Well, because I think when we started doing the ebooks, we had to have exclusive contract with Amazon.
Yeah, I'd rather have that because then people could read some pages for free and see if they like it, stuff like that. Yeah. Anyway, check out our stuff on Amazon and have a good night, folks.
Good night.
Night.